Awesome, Mark. So it's awesome to have you on this podcast. And I'm not one of those podcast hosts that's going to do some long-winded intro here with you staring at me because it's really off-putting. And
Well, it's awesome to be here, man. Thank you so much for having me on your show. You've been crushing it.
I mean, if things are going okay, like okay, the things could be much better. Like I could be making more money, could be getting more clients, but patience is, I think, is a big virtue to have when you make content or do stuff.
Man, patience and consistency, like the two biggest, most important things in content creation, for sure. No question.
Whilst we're here, let's just talk about content creation, because this audience is mostly procurement based, and so one reason I started making content is because no one in this space makes content. Well, there's not many content creators, and there's not many content creators that are
A handful.
Good. Yeah. So it seemed ripe. I mean, and I say it seems ripe. It seems ripe to be not taken advantage of, but to get your name out there. And I only started seriously making content a few months ago, and I can just see so much opportunity in this space. What do you think holds procurement people back, though? Because I've got some views on it, and I'd just be interested to. You talk to a lot of people.
I think procurement people just culturally, if we have a culture collectively, we're very conservative. Just by nature, we're pretty risk averse. That's what makes us good at our jobs, right? And so I think when you're trying to put yourself out there, there's always that thought of, okay, what's the risk? What am I gonna get out of this, and is the reward going to be worth the risk? And I think for a lot of people, they just don't know, and that's probably the right thought process, right? Like you just don't know. And so I just think if you commit to it and you put yourself out there, you're gonna find out very quickly that you're gonna make mistakes. And I think that's where most people don't want to dive into it, is they're really afraid of the risk of the mistake. And also the vast majority of them are corporate procurement people, right? So they've got to think not only about their own personal brand, but the corporate brand that they represent, just by nature of being an employee somewhere. So there's always the risk that, someone from the communications department or the PR team is going to come slap your hand and say, okay, that's enough, right? Like no more. Depending on the organization that you're in. There are a lot of organizations that are super conservative about messaging and being on brand and all that kind of stuff. And even if you've got your own thing, they'll strong arm you a bit to say, that's not going to happen here.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And it's something I don't worry about, because obviously I'm not an employee anywhere. And it's probably something I don't give much thought to, that side of things. But I think, yeah, you're right in terms of people are scared to make mistakes in our world, and
big time.
They hopefully make a good career out of not making too many mistakes, making very risk averse, typically decisions that protect the bottom line. So I get that. And I mean, I would just say, don't worry about it, because I've put out so many horrendous posts, so many that have
me too.
Typos. Like
I've learned by my mistakes. That's without question, for sure.
I think just a little story. The other week, I had like 2-3 guys message me to say your last 2 posts have all got typos in, and I partly thought, oh thanks, but equally I thought, shit, I don't really care, because at least I'm putting something out there. And
did the message get across? That's all I really care about.
Yeah, that's it. Are people aware of what I'm trying to say?
But it's, I mean, so to me, that's fairly typical of a comment from a procurement person, right?
Yes.
Like your post has typos, where like your entire job as a procurement person is to mitigate risk, essentially, right? So to create value and mitigate risk. And so I think for a lot of people, when they come in with that mindset, they've had years and years and years of conditioning about, this is your mindset. You are to create value and mitigate risk. And so they get the create value part. Okay, cool, I can go create some value, but I got to balance that against the risk, and what's my reputation going to be, and how is this going to look? And then I think a lot of people have imposter syndrome as well, where they get into the idea of like, well, who am I? Who am I to put this out there? Why should anyone listen to me? There's already so many good things that are going on, like all the typical arguments that go on in your head. That's self-psychology. And it's a dangerous mindset to get into, because then you just never do anything. And I think if you get trapped in that circular messaging inside your head, it's very, very challenging to get out of, because if you don't look out for your own interests, you're never going to do anything because of
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think so many people, like we said, are very fearful, and it's so hard to get out of your own head. I put off making any sort of content for years. Like when I was at university, I was making Minecraft videos on YouTube. Not many people know about this. I don't think the channels are there anymore, thankfully, because there's some of the worst content going. And I mean, I used to do a lot of gaming content on top of that, Call of Duty, things like that. And that's where I learned how to create content, edit
Yeah.
videos.
But
But
your
you just
beard content is also really good, dude.
it's okay. Like it could be. I mean, if I put the effort in, which I don't at the moment because I just don't have time, it could be something special. It's
Yeah.
had it does okay, and yeah, I think just put content out there is kind of the message. I think both of us are saying
Yeah,
here.
and also with the intention of like, okay, well, what am I trying to achieve, right?
That's a good point.
I think it's really like everyone's like, well, what do I put out? Well, what do you want to say? I
What's
think
your
that's
end
where you
game?
got to start, right? Like, what's the end game? Why are you doing this? So as long as you have an idea, and don't get too stuck on that idea, but as long as you have an idea of why you're putting it out there, then what you'll find is the more and more that you put out, the messaging gets better. You start to fine tune things better. You start to get tighter with how you talk. Interview skills get better. All of everything just starts to get, it's like anything, right? The more and more you practice it, the more and more you do it, the better you get. So I think a lot of people, before you put anything out there, got to think about, okay, why am I putting it out there? And if you say to yourself, well, I just want to be, more well known, it's going to help me get a job, or whatever it's going to be, it's going to classify me as that thought leader, so to speak, in the space. That's a great reason. Don't like that's not a silly, stupid reason. That's an amazing reason to do this. You should absolutely do it for that reason.
Yeah, I think that's a really sound bit of advice because just being, I mean, I think a lot of people get it twisted as to what a personal brand is, what a thought leader is. They kind of think it's a bit narcissistic, a little bit egotistical, but it's not. It's just
No,
it's just almost like your peers
you're
are
going to
vetting
have
you.
to do it just to be able to compete, man. Like,
Hmm.
if you're thinking about all the amazing opportunities that exist, if you're competing against the same person with the same designations and the same qualifications and the same experience as you, what differentiates you, right? Like, so find something to differentiate yourself. If this is one of those things that differentiates you, then it's something that you're going to have to do. Eventually, you're going to have to start producing some sort of content.
Yeah, that's how I originally started looking at content because I kind of see it going that who cares about a CV? Who cares about your
Exactly.
resume, whatever it is? People are just going to look online and see what you're up to, what you're talking about. Are you talking sense? Have you put some content out there that people can get value from? And yes, you might need to explain what you've been up to for the last 5, 10 years. And that just might be a conversation. And the conversation starter is your incredible content. That's how I look at
Yeah.
it. Awesome. So I think I kind of want to segue into negotiations because I know you're doing all the content stuff and you're a bit of a pro at it after building up an incredible
Lots of
podcast
work
that
to do, but thank you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I've been watching what you've been up to for a while. I mean, I, one of the reasons I started this podcast, I looked at what you and Philip Iderson were doing in this space, or I looked at the numbers, and it's hard to see podcast numbers, but I can look at your following. I can see numbers everywhere, and
Yeah,
I could see there was an audience for it, and I thought there was
totally.
room to. There's
Yeah,
definitely
man.
room to
Like, people
play in
think
this
people think
area.
that there's like procurement's such a small niche that you're not going to get an
Mm,
audience. That's not necessarily. I mean, you think of the amount of procurement people around the world, and then you think of how fast podcasts are growing, and then you think of how fast social media is growing. The audience is just growing. I mean, what are we, like 15,000 downloads a month now on our podcast, and that's unreal. That's amazing. We love that. And so that puts us in the top 50 management podcasts in the world, number one negotiation podcast in the world, and we're stoked about that.
Yeah, it's insane, and I mean, I could only dream of those numbers. But like you say, I think get outside your fear bubble and start doing stuff. And
Exactly.
I mean, like your bread and butter has been negotiation, and
Yep.
I was doing some research, and you're everywhere, by the way. Out of any guest, like
Good.
I did
That's the
Google.
goal.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the goal.
seriously. I mean, I was like, geez, like normally when I Google people, a few pages come up, if anything, and like yours had up to page 10, and there was more, so I just jumped to page 10 because that's normally where all the bad stuff is.
Yeah, no, don't look at the bad stuff. Look only at the good stuff.
I couldn't find anything. I saw things
Man,
like
there's a
you're.
lot.
I saw. I mean, you're a full
I've said a lot of stupid
member,
shit over the
maybe.
years, man.
Oh, I knew what I wanted to bring up. I know where this is going. Okay, I saw that you did some conference in the cannabis space.
Yes, yeah. Canadian Cannabis Summit.
And I thought that was incredible because I don't really have any interest in cannabis really, but I see the market for it just sort of exploding in the US and Canada. And I'm hoping you can have a guest on soon that is currently doing procurement and acquisitions of companies in that marketplace. And
yeah,
that kind of blew my mind as to doing negotiations content. And then I saw you pop up on a cannabis summit.
Yeah,
It's
one of my clients
great.
is a cannabis producer, one of the biggest cannabis producers in the world. And so cannabis is a big deal in Canada, as you know, right? It's legal federally. And even if it wasn't legal, it's kind of Canada's thing, right? So it's something that a lot of people are really passionate about, and it's a very fast growing, fast changing, fast moving industry. I mean, I liken it very much to how tech used to be back in the day. There's so much going on, there's so much changing, and the people, I think the cannabis industry gets a bad rap because the people who are not involved in the industry assume that everyone who works in the cannabis industry is a pothead. And some of that is true,
Yeah.
certainly, but the people that are running these businesses are amazing business people, like incredible business people. Like Bruce Linton, the guy that started Canopy Growth, is, in my opinion, one of the most courageous executives around, because he did something that other people thought couldn't be done. And even Terry Booth at Aurora or some other companies. And it's a ever-changing, ever-shaping industry. And there's so much going on with CBD production and pharmaceuticals and all that kind of stuff that's just so unknown to the common public that I think it would blow people's minds to see how much progress is being made in that industry.
Yeah, that's a good insight because, like, I look into it. In the UK, it's completely off the cards, illegal. I mean, I don't think there's much chance of it being legalized anytime soon. So a lot of people sort of spectate as to what could happen. I think a lot of people over here would actually want it to be legalized because
it's a great source of tax revenue, man.
Yeah,
I mean, people are doing it anyway, right? Like, that's the point. Is it's not it's not as bad or worse than alcohol, and people are consuming it anyway. So why not make the tax revenue off of it? I don't know. It just, for me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I love how
Probably,
this
I'm going to get a lot
going,
of
by
hate
the way.
mail out of this interview. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. Like, a lot of conservative listeners of my show are going to send me emails and go, "What the fuck, Mark?"
Don't worry, everyone's going to unsubscribe to me because they thought I was talking about procurement and we're talking about cannabis. But I like how this conversation's going because it's real time. Like, we're talking about things that are actively happening right now. And how I look at the cannabis industry is a very fast-paced industry, and I'm trying to tie this all together here to make it about procurement. I personally would think a lot of procurement people would struggle in such a fast-paced environment because I see them as being quite slow and reactive. I don't know. I'd be keen to hear some of your
Yeah,
thought?
I think so too. I think if you come from a very traditional, like maybe capital intensive business where procurement's had a role for a really, really long time, you're going to have a lot of trouble in SaaS based companies, and you're going to have a lot of trouble in cannabis companies just because they're moving so fast. And so you've got to change your mindset to become more of a facilitator for growth than anything else. At no point in time can you ever be the bottleneck. So you've got to make sure that all of your processes are on point. Everything that you're doing is clean. Everything that you're doing is quick and fast. And like the velocity's got to increase a lot. And I think that if you're coming from a very traditional, let's just say like oil and gas based company or commodity based company, it's just not as quick. And so your mindset's got to change about how you approach the work, because you're just a facilitator for growth. That's it. That's all you're doing. And along the way, you're for sure going to shape processes, procedures. Things are going to get better in terms of negotiation, but you've got to be a conduit for growth for sure.
Do you think that that mindset, that shift, probably is going to be needed across more, let's call it
Yeah.
traditional areas anyway? Because I think I speak to a lot of people, and it kind of rubs them up. I'm gonna almost reword that. It kind of gets their backs up a bit, because if I say procurement isn't just about cost cutting, and I do think it is important at times in some categories, but there seems to be such an old school mentality. And I don't
Oh
mean
yeah.
old school as in people who've been doing it 50 years. Someone my age could have picked up that way of doing things from someone as well, and think it's the best way of doing things. I I see a lot of procurement people moaning that they don't have a seat at the table, they don't get to do this, they don't get to do that. And I always think, but you're not innovating, you're not pushing growth, you're stuck in the way of, oh, we just go out to suppliers, we put a bid out or a proposal out or something out, and it comes back and we go for the cheapest one, and they might be
Yeah.
fairly good quality, and that's about all they do day to day, 8% of the time, and then go on Outlook and send emails to one another.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. I think, I mean, you're going to have pockets, right? I think pockets of procurement people are always looking to push, and there are certainly departments and there are some teams, procurement teams in very traditional companies that are like crushing it. They are amazing at what they do. I count a lot of those people as clients, and they're just incredible. I mean, I've worked with teams in like super traditional companies like healthcare and
Mm,
insurance and stuff, where you would think, God, these people probably move the speed of snail's pace. Nope, these guys are
opposite.
killing it every day, and they are super, super fast and really amazing at driving value. But then you're going to have, teams in other companies that aren't doing as well. And I think it's changing, but it's changing probably too slowly. And so what I think you're going to see end up happening is that there's going to be sort of, have you ever read Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell?
No.
So it's the whole idea that, when an idea reaches critical mass,
Hmm.
with a group of people, there becomes a tipping point, and then everyone starts doing that
Yeah, yeah.
thing. So I think what's going to end up happening is that it's if we leave it to our own devices, the tipping point is going to take a really long time. But the speed of technology that we have right now in the procurement industry is moving so fast that it's gonna it's gonna require us to like bridge a gap really, really quickly. And so I think you're gonna get a lot of people that aren't going to be able to just jump that gap, because they're not going to be able to build the bridge in time. They're going to have to like leap and like hope to God that they grab onto the other side.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I was chatting with one of the co-founders at a company called Pactum the other day, which is an AI negotiations technology.
Mm.
And what they do is they've got an AI chatbot for tail spend. And so you would send out a renewal notice to a company to say, hey, 3 months till the renewal, here are the things that we want to talk about, blah, blah, blah. And this chatbot would start interacting with you on behalf of that company and say, okay, here are the things that we really care about. This is where we need to negotiate. And the negotiation process is now between you and the chatbot. There's no human involved. And it's all artificial intelligence. Everything that's important about that contract has been programmed into the bot, and it can calibrate across multiple different contracts at the same time. So in procurement, we're guilty, I think, of negotiating, one negotiation, then the next
Yeah.
negotiation, very vertical, right?
Sequentially.
So yeah, sequentially. This is all parallel.
Yeah.
Right. So this bot is negotiating at parallel with multiple contracts all at the same time, and starting to balance the risk of all these other multiple contracts against the contract that you're negotiating on. And so it can just say, you know what, screw it. We actually just can give away this stuff because right now we're working on this deal and it's much better. Let's just keep moving. And it moves all the time really quickly, and it's always learning. And it doesn't have any human bias, and it doesn't have any human error, and there's no manual entry error. And all of this is moving so quickly. And when I told someone in procurement from a very traditional company, it was a bank, the other day saying, hey, this is coming, it's here, literally it's been implemented at Walmart right now, they were like, they blew their minds, right? And they were like, well, it's going to take a long time. I was like, no, it's not going to take, it's here now.
Yeah.
Today. It's not going to take a long time. The future is here right now. And if you can't get aboard of what's happening right now, you're going to be left behind. And that's what I'm saying, where people are going to have to make this cognitive jump, because if we've been left to our own devices, because we're risk averse and we want to make sure that we do things the right way and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, we're typically pretty slow in our processes, right? And so we're not going to be left to our own devices. The technology is moving too quickly. So you're going to have to make that jump to survive in this game. And I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of trouble with that in the next 5 to 10 years.
I agree completely. And I just want to quickly clarify for anyone listening who doesn't know what a chatbot is. Just think of when you go on to a website and you want to buy something, and that little annoying messenger comes up and says, hey, can we help you today? Do you want to find out about this? And you select a few answers and it tells you about the product and you buy it. That's pretty much a chatbot.
Yeah. And
it's
so
incredible.
Typically those like older versions of chatbots have been programmed to give canned responses.
Yeah.
This chatbot actually learns and delivers responses based on
Yeah.
what they think is going to get the best deal possible. The funny thing about this is that I was looking at some data of theirs, and they said the data suggested that people actually enjoyed interacting with a chatbot more than they enjoyed interacting with another person.
I can see that 100%.
Which is wild, man. It's just wild, because negotiation is like nerve-wracking, right? Like super nerve-wracking. And so if you feel like you have to go up against a super experienced negotiator at who's representing the counterparty, now that you're getting in touch with the chatbot, you think for whatever reason you've got an advantage because it's just a stupid machine.
How wrong you are.
But how wrong you are, right? Like, it would have been way better if you just chatted to Jim, right? Like, it's wild, the stuff that's going on right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you gave that example, because the whole real-time element, like in my mind, like 10 negotiations going on at any one time,
yeah,
and it making decisions with all 10 of them based on all 10 conversations at the same time. And
right.
I'm so happy this has come up and we've gone down this wonderful direction so far, because I can almost remember it was some months ago, you put a post up, I think it may be on your negotiations ninja page, about this. And I jumped in to say, no one will negotiate with another person in the future. It will all be AI, and they will talk to each other, because the AI will know what both businesses want, and they will make an agreement in a second.
Make the most efficient outcome.
That's it. And it'll be underpinned by a smart contract that are only getting more and more developed, with all the milestones, payments, trigger points, everything all built in, probably on a blockchain of some sort. And you won't even need procurement people or negotiators doing that, because it's happening now. Like, you can see it everywhere. I was using chatbots in e-commerce 3 years ago to send discount codes, and like you say, it was the canned responses back then. But It's going to affect everything. And I mean, this is kind of why I think it's so important that procurement people partly put content out to bring it back to that, because if you're talking about these elements of your day job that
Yeah,
sadly aren't
listen,
going to be
I mean,
there.
if you're a tactical procurement person,
Mm.
right, and you're doing PO production
Yeah,
and stuff like that,
you're out.
you better be really worried, like
Yeah,
really worried. You better be seriously concerned about your future in this industry.
yeah,
You better be upgrading your skill set. You better be putting better content out there. Get to becoming a more strategic job. Like, I mean, we've seen it happening in accounting. There's no reason it can't happen in procurement, right? Like, I think people would be very naive to think that they're not replaceable by a machine. Without question, based on what I've seen already today, the role of basically PO cutters, done. It's over. It's over.
yeah. I'm a massive advocate of this, and I pretty much sing it as much as I can. I mean, I got a lot of hate on it. I say a lot of hate. I got a lot of hate for LinkedIn,
Oh
which is
yeah,
it's a
listen. I
very
mean, let's be
nice hate.
clear. You and I, after this interview, are going to get some serious hate mail saying, "How dare you?" Blah 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 blah. But the
It'll still be
reality
pleasant
is,
though. That's
yeah, it'll still be nice, right? Like, I
yeah.
noticed that in your interview you said blah blah blah. Right? It's not Twitter, thank God.
Yeah, I think people need to really wisen up to it. I mean, say before and I'm just being silly here, before the robots take over, we've got Skynet
Yeah,
at our
Skynet
doors.
comes and everyone dies.
I mean, how can I mean, no, there's going to be a place for negotiation to some extent. There's going to be a place
Yeah,
for procurement people. I mean,
yeah. I
what
think
are
it's more strategic.
and what does, like, in my mind, what does, to you anyway, what does sort of strategic procurement maybe involve in negotiation, or just how does that kind of look to you? Is it, working out how you can do things to make the business more money? Is it actually, we're not going to worry about issuing these purchase orders out or email communications, we're going to actually build relationships with these suppliers, we're going to use the software solutions?
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to creative problem solving. Like, I think the skill set that's going to actually be required, as crazy as this sounds, and as much as I think procurement people commonly hate consultants, I think the skill set that's going to be required is a consulting skill set and creative problem solving skill set. Because what you'll find is that all of the tactical stuff is going to get done, right? And so you're going to have to think now, okay, well, outside of me coming in, looking at a purchase requisition, moving that to a PO and clicking send, or like making sure I've got the information correct, what am I doing to add value? So I think you've got to think about like how you're driving value through creative problem solving and driving value through progressing the business forward. And this is what I mean. I'm going to tie it back to earlier in the discussion. This is what I mean about how fast things are moving in the cannabis industry or in the SaaS business. You've got to be a facilitator for growth, and you've got to be coming up with good ideas to make more money, not just save more money, but make more money. And I think we'll get into more of a revenue producing role than anything else. And I think there's going to be a big opportunity for us to tie sales and procurement together to make that a lot more efficient. When we get there, I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, how I look at it is, if I like the idea of procurement and sales and moving to more revenue generating, because when I go around to places that actually are interested in making money, I kind of laugh sometimes at the margins they're making on stuff that they spend hours and days working on,
Oh,
that just the
wild.
burn rate of staff on
Yeah.
it just wipes the profit. And I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like so many procurement people won't survive that, and they may not need to, because they may find those roles where they're perfectly happy.
Yeah.
There's organizations that don't think like that. But I kind of think that's where the seat at the table is earned. I hear so much of, like, I think I said already, that procurement people always moan that they're not involved at the start. It's because they're not innovating to do these things. They're too
Agreed.
set on what they're up to.
Yeah.
No,
There are some teams that I work with that are light years ahead of everyone else, like bleeding edge sort of skill sets. But then there are other teams that I work with that are literally 20 years behind everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I get
It's
that.
the disparity is the gap between so many teams is so massive. And this is what I'm saying is like, I see the majority of teams actually being behind rather than being ahead. I mean, you look at like, not a small company, but smaller company like VSP Global, which is a eyewear, eye healthcare company based out of Sacramento. Their chief procurement officer, a guy named Greg Tennyson,
Oh yeah,
on
I see him. Yeah,
yeah,
on LinkedIn.
unreal background,
Hmm.
right? But this guy's bleeding edge on everything. Like he's trying everything new. And so if you're going to compete as a procurement leader, even, I think you've really got to think about what am I not just how much money am I saving or risk am I mitigating, but how am I improving the cost to serve for the business, right? So it's less of a conversation about how much money can we save on this contract, but more about how am I improving the cost to serve of this entire product or this entire service line or the business or whatever it might be, so that we can facilitate more growth.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I think we have already touched on it. Sometimes, like you say, procurement people can get so caught up on the sequential nature of this negotiation, this procurement. But actually, and I hate to use the word holistic because it just sounds too airy, fairy, and just fluffy to me. But actually, what's your business there to do? What's it there to provide? How can you make it better? How can you
Yeah.
make more money doing it? And that's kind of what I think where we're going, especially for brands that are direct to consumer, which is going to be the well, it already is the model that is the best thing ever, because no one goes to shops, especially after COVID. Who's
Yeah.
going to walk into a shop
Well,
anymore?
and I think also like think of how that would change a salesperson's role as well,
Yeah,
right? So it's so many people I think are going to listen to this and go, "Well, you just beat the hell out of us whole episode," and like, what the heck? It's not just you, man. Like, think about how this is affecting salespeople. Like, if you think about Amazon's model, right? And I'm not saying that D2C is exactly the same as B2B. Please don't get me wrong, but if you think about how you purchase a product, one click plus they get, other people who bought this also bought, right? So there's
yeah,
a social proof element. They're suggesting additional things. The machine is significantly more efficient at achieving cross-selling and upselling than a salesperson would. That is going to happen in the B2B world for tactical purchases. It's going to happen. It's happening right now. And so if you think that other people aren't also going to feel the effects of the advancement of technology to make things more efficient, um, don't worry about it. They are. So you're not going to be alone in this. We just got to figure out, okay, now we know not necessarily what the problem is, but what the opportunity is. There's a massive opportunity here for procurement people to like get to the next level. And so if you were a procurement person today and you were early in your career, I would say to you, invest in learning machine learning, invest in learning everything you can about artificial intelligence, invest in learning everything you can about RPA, invest in everything you can learning about how you can improve systems and efficiencies and workflows and all of that, because that's where you're really going to be needed.
I agree. And like, I mean, I'm being quite selfish what I'm about to say here, because that is pretty much all I'm interested in right now. From what I do, I'm pretty much just going to organizations and saying, your process is horrendous, you're losing time here, this is what you can do, and this is what you can do further down the line with contract management tools, RPA, like RPA, robotic process automation, because so many people still do not know anything about this. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that advice. Just before we wrap up here, Mark, because I think we've already stoked the fire enough in this episode. I kind of want to pour some gasoline on, if you want to
Yeah,
play.
let's do. I mean, we're already on fire. We may as well pour gasoline. Let's go.
So your view of designation bodies.
Oh fuck! You're gonna get me in trouble. Oh
I just
man.
thought this would be interesting, because so in the UK, SIPs, Chartered Institute of
Yeah,
Procurement and
I
Supply.
am. By the way, I'm a designation holder of SIPs. I have an
Yeah.
MSIPs designation.
Oh, okay. That's so
You're gonna get me
throughout.
in a lot of trouble. Okay, go.
Let's keep it PG. So I've been watching what these elements are up to, what they're doing. And the only one I've kind of seen doing anything good is SIG, Sourcing Industry Group. They look like they're doing
Yeah,
some all
six
right
solid.
stuff. And I
Yeah.
don't know too much of those. They're not really in my market. But places like SIPs are putting everything behind paywalls. Sorry. So everything is pay to play. You have to be a member. You have to pay £10 to join this coffee morning that's now virtual, and you don't really get any value out of it. And their content is always hidden behind membership. And I kind of think, yeah, like, are these bodies kind of
Massive
shooting themselves
mistake,
in the
in my
foot?
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're making a massive mistake. I have deep respect for the work that SIPS does.
Mm,
I think they're a really good
definitely.
organization, and they are fucking up on marketing big time.
Yeah.
Big time. They have some of the most amazing content I have ever, like, as if you get
Yeah.
access, if you become a SIPS designated person, if you get access to their back end of their training, it is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. It's really good content. Are they actually leveraging that content? Not even a little bit. Like, they could be they could they could be the most dominant procurement organization period in the world if
Mm-hmm.
they really wanted to. But for whatever reason, I don't know who's making the decisions. They're they're sitting on a gold mine,
Yeah.
and
I
they
agree.
can't even. I don't even know if they can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frustrating for me to see, like, these designation bodies being run by people that think so old school about how content should be used and how it should be marketed and all that kind of stuff. And it drives me up the wall when I know the content that's behind there, and I know how much value they could be producing for their members, but they're not. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just because of a mindset issue. Yeah, I think, and not just to pick on them. I think it's everyone. I think
Yeah.
it's the vast majority of designation granting bodies. They're really shitting the bed on value provision to their members. And this is a criticism that I've made openly on social media, of the vast majority of designation bodies, is they're not doing a good enough job. They're not. And if you were paying membership fees to any of these designation bodies, uh, and you're wondering, hey, where's the value that I'm getting? You're not wrong to wonder that. You should be getting more value. You should be getting more stuff. There should be, I don't know, man. It just frustrates me so much to see them sit on all of this amazing stuff and do nothing with it. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that with with that conversation, because I think
Yeah,
it could
great. Thanks.
it could
You're
get.
gonna get me, like, I'm gonna get emails from all these buddies now. They're all gonna hate me. Whatever.
Well, I mean, like,
My
my
belief.
personal view is it's very much the same, and I
They're
stopped
great bodies, but they just don't
because
do
of
the
that.
work properly.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to invest my personal money or my company's money in SIPS designation because I don't see the value beyond getting MSIPs. So what? You gave me an MSIPs qualification, but what am I getting now? Oh, I spend 30 hours training with you a year that I pay you more and more money for every year, and you take more of my money and make more. I don't know. There's something about that that doesn't
Yeah,
seem to sit
it's
right
about
with me.
them. It's not about you. That's
Yeah,
the
that's it.
issue, right? Like,
Yeah,
the service and the value, it's just not. It's not, and it's not just them. It's all of the
yeah, yeah,
And if you were going to think about it, like, you think about all the accounting designations, all the finance designations, all the insurance, they're all the same. They're
yeah,
all the
definitely.
same. It's
Hmm.
not. Yeah, it's. I think the value proposition could be so much great. SIPs could dominate if they wanted to. They could literally kill everyone in the procurement game tomorrow if they
Yeah.
really wanted to.
So I hope they don't, because I want to make this
Right,
podcast
right.
good. So,
Hopefully
and
they
I
never
don't
listen
think
to
they
this
will.
podcast and understand where they can actually improve things. But and you
Definitely
know what? They probably won't. So
no, because they're
it's
not
okay.
aware. They're not aware of
Right.
what's going on. Definitely, Mark. I'm gonna let you go because I'm conscious of the time. We've kind of, I mean, I sent you some notes about what we could talk about, and we kind of covered a little bit, and it went in such a better direction such a better direction. This has been far more interesting because it gives me so much fire to add into all that micro content now. And
Love it,
just
man.
I'll try not to stitch you up too much with any out of context stuff for clickbait posts.
Don't take my shit out of context. Although I said so much stuff today that you could even put in context, that I think it would just be like, whatever.
It'd be fine. So yeah, no, it's been great talking to you.
Likewise, man. Listen, hey,
fun.
Kudos to you as well. I think you're doing an amazing job. This podcast is incredible. Your content is solid. You're providing a ton of value to the community. And please keep going. I think this is awesome.
I'll try to, unless it bankrupts me, but we'll see.
I think we're all trying to avoid that at this point.
Anyway, Mark, pleasure chatting.